we're going to, I'm just going to highlight a couple things from chapters 35 and 36. And then we'll get to chapter 37, which is about Joseph. But there's some kind of significant things in between. So let's go. We have one new person, and what we teach here is based on the work of Dr. George M. Lamsa. And uniquely, the reason why this is totally unique is because Dr. Lamsa not only did he write about it, but it's like Dr. Lamsa walked the talk. He talked about it, but he walked the talk. He lived very remotely in the Kurdistan Mountains until the 1900s. So he experienced all the customs and traditions that Jesus, well, Abraham, whatever, went through. And he spoke Aramaic. And because he spoke Aramaic and he has this cultural background, that is what makes our teachings just totally unique. And as many people have said, it makes the Bible make sense in many places. So, and so Dr. Lamsa, Dr. Errico, mentored with Dr. Lamsa, and he has contributed to expanded the work, contributed more. And so here we are. We studied with Dr. Errico in person for 13 years in Atlanta, and then we set out and we started teaching this on our own, and so here we are now. Okay. And the last but not least, just a reminder for everybody, we're not here to convince you of anything, to coerce you, to convert you, and mostly we're not here to condemn you, your religion, or your beliefs. But remember, you will hear things here that may not agree with your background, your what you were raised with, or whatever. Okay, so we will go first to, hold on one moment, please. Okay, sorry about that, folks. All right, so we're starting with Genesis 35, okay, 1 through 5. And remember that in the end of Genesis 34, that was Dinah's story, and so we're picking up here after Levi and Simon went and destroyed Shechem and the city, and Jacob, of course, is concerned. So, but in terms of, let's talk about the spiritual journey thing with Jacob. All right. So Jacob was in another bad spot. His sons had destroyed the whole town, killed all these people, and I'm gonna mute everybody. I'm getting some back feed here. Anyway, okay, so Now, all right, what happens? God speaks to Jacob. And this is what has happened throughout Jacob's journeys and his trials and tribulations. And remember, God said he would protect him. And so now God is showing up and saying to Jacob, arise, go up to Bethel and dwell there, and build there an altar to God who appeared to you when you fled from the presence of your brother Esau. Then Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, put away the strange gods that are among you, and cleanse yourselves and change your garments. And let us arise and go up to Bethel, and I will build there an altar to God who answered me in the day of my distress and was with me in the journey that I took. So they gave to Jacob all the strange gods that were in their possession and the earrings that were in their ears, and Jacob buried them under the oak, which was by Shechem. And they journeyed, and the fear of God fell upon the towns that were round about them. And they did not pursue after Jacob and his sons, which is what Jacob was worried about. Okay, so let's just look at this passage here because there's some interesting stuff. Okay, and the significance of this is, okay, Jacob, remember Jacob left his father's home because Esau was going to kill him. He went and lived with Laban, and he's on his way back. He reconciled with Esau, and now he's back to the place Bethel, which he named the house of God. That is what Bethel means. And so essentially his exile is over. Okay, now a little bit about the strange gods and images. Okay, back then, if you remember back in Rachel, the story with Rachel, she stole these images from Laban. And essentially, you know, there were other gods back then, and they had, it's really, it's kind of like now, they had little statues and images that they, you know, that they, I don't know, you would say worship, but anyway, they have them, and that's what, and Rachel had stolen images from Laban, and all the rest of the people had collected them. And so the idea of getting rid of the images, okay, and then remember, notice it said, and get yourself clean and whatnot. It was kind of like a purification and a new start under the one God. So, and another interesting thing about the images, okay, you notice it says he collected the images and he did not destroy them. Okay, he did not destroy them, but he buried them. And so the reason for that is that there was like an ancient taboo against destroying holy objects of any kind. And interestingly enough, there is a Jewish tradition that continues today that any unusable scrolls, prayer books, etc., or anything with God's name on it cannot be destroyed, but must be buried. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But they were starting anew. They got themselves cleansed, and remember that's the well, even now with the Jewish cleanliness. That's where the cleanliness is next to God came from. Cleanliness is the Jewish was the Jewish way. All right, now another interesting another interesting passage, and God appeared to Jacob again when he came from Padam Aram and blessed him. And God said to him, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel shall be your name. So he called his name Israel. And God said to him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A people and a multitude of peoples shall come from you, and kings shall come out of your loins. And the land which I gave to Abraham and Isaac, I will give to you and to your descendants. After you will give, I will give the land. And God went up from him in the place where he talked with him, Bethel. Okay, so Israel. Now you'll recall back 3 chapters ago in Genesis 32, we heard then that his name would be called Israel. But remember, back in chapter 32, that was a dream that Jacob had. And everything in that dream came true. The dream, he was meeting with Esau, remember? And it was like a prediction of the reconciliation with Esau. But here is God actually coming to him and saying, okay, your name shall now be Israel. All right. And the name Israel means Prince of God. Okay. And you know that whenever you see the El, that's God. Okay. And so if we go up there and it says God Almighty, now they used a lot of terms. Remember, this is way back in the New Testament, I mean the Old Testament. And so they used different terms like Yahweh, but here when it says God Almighty, that's where you may have heard the words El Shaddai, and it just means the mighty one, the strong one. And once again, El is God, and Shaddai is it's like strong one or almighty. And that's also the name that was used, the name of God as he appeared to Abraham. So that's another significant. All right, and we've got another significant passage in here. All right, in this passage, Rachel, all right, let's read it. And they journeyed from Bethel and continued until they came within the distance of a mile from the entrance to Ephrath. And Rachel travailed, and she had hard labor while she was being delivered. And it came to pass, while she was in hard labor, the midwife said to her, fear not, for this one also is a son for you. And it came to pass, as her soul was departing and she was dying, she called the child's name Bar-Kibai, which means the son of my sorrow. But his father called him Benjamin, the son of my right hand. And Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, which is Bethlehem. Okay, now remember, Rachel was actually the second wife of Jacob. Okay, and Rachel only had one other child, and that was Joseph. And now at the end of her days, she has had Benjamin, and Benjamin was the 12th son. That completed his family of 12 sons. And just a note here about Benjamin, him calling Benjamin, meaning the son of my right hand. Okay, in the Bible, you see right right hand, right hand all the time. You don't ever see left. Rarely do you see left. And that's because right hand was considered good. Right hand in Aramaic is very meaningful. It signifies trust, loyalty, and power. For one to sit on the right hand of a king was a very high honor. It meant complete trust and power. To sit on the right hand of God meant all power. So the right-handed thing, the idea of a right hand, left was evil, left was bad. And I don't know, some of you know, Albert, you're pretty young, so you probably won't remember this. But
Well, thank you for that.
okay, but a long time ago, do y'all remember when teachers in school, if you try to write with your left hand, they would correct you and make you write with your right hand? Now, I was fortunate that I was sort of at the end of that, but many people got stuck with that, and there no way could you write with your left hand. And of course, that's just one of the things. You know, directly people wouldn't say, but that it did come. It did come from the Bible a long time ago. A lot of our things that we don't realize, you know, did come from the Bible. And yep, you're right, Theodora, saying, because that is well, no, wait a minute, hold on. Actually, no, it's the left hand. It's the left hand that would be unclean. Just a little story, and I don't know.
That's what I meant. I typed it wrong.
Exactly. And we
Yeah.
have it in our introductory class. We have a picture in there. It's modern day, but but we have it in there to show how the Last Supper was really in a circle and not a table. But these were Arabs, and these were wealthy Arabs today, and they had their cloth on the ground. They read, and they ate only with their right hand, and they don't have utensils. And this is modern day. They ate with their hands, their right hand, and as Theodore says, because the other hand, you know, it's just that's what they use to, you know, to wipe. But again, left in the Bible is a no-no. The only thing I believe that I have heard is that seemingly left-handed sword bearers were really, really good. That's the only thing I have heard from the Bible. So, okay, so Rachel is gone. Jacob or Israel is by himself now, but he has. All right, now, but before we get to Joseph, all right, let's do this passage because see these next, Jacob is dealing with his sons, and he's having problems with his sons, his family, so to speak. So in Genesis 35, 21 to 22, all right, and it came to pass when Israel dwelt in that land that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard of it. Now, that's all we hear right now. They stuck this passage in here, okay, and so, but what we know is that laying with your father's wives or concubines, I mean, was strictly prohibited I mean, it was like, it was totally, just totally not acceptable. But so why did Reuben do this? Okay, remember, Reuben was Israel's, Jacob's firstborn son to Leah, the one that he didn't really want to marry, but he got tricked into it. So Reuben was his firstborn son. But Rachel was the one that he had wanted to marry all along. And Rachel had Joseph. So Jacob favored Joseph and actually considered him the firstborn, because Rachel was the one that he really loved. And so Jacob and Jacob favored him. And not only did he favor him, but Joseph, he was grooming Joseph to be the next tribe leader. And once again, Joseph was probably the most suited of all the boys to do that. And that's what we saw with Jacob and Esau. And but that his favoritism of Joseph, you're going to see, caused much trouble. And this is why Reuben was jealous of Joseph. He was spiteful. He was trying to get back at his father, okay, because his father favored Joseph. And when it says that he went to lay with Bilhah, remember, was Rachel's maid. So it was all Reuben with resentment against his father because his father favored Joseph. Now, they just put this in here right now, and there's no consequences or anything right now. But when Israel is dying, Jacob Israel is dying, we got to Genesis 49, 3-4, then it's spelled out there. And Jacob or Israel says, Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, and the excellency of dignity, and the excellency of power. You went astray like water. You shall not excel, because you went up to your father's bed. Truly, you have defiled my bed by going up into it. And that's kind of like the curse, which they did. And so that's Reuben for now. All right. Now, okay, now I got something very disappointing here. I'm sure it's going to be very disappointing to y'all. Let's go ahead and read this, and then I'll tell you why. All right. And Jacob dwelt in the land wherein his father was a sojourner, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers. And the lad was reared with the sons of Zilpah and with the sons of Bilhah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought an evil report of them to their father. Okay, so here we have it again. The brothers were starting to hate Joseph because Joseph was was going back to his father and telling him all these things. Now, Israel loved Joseph more than all his other sons because he was the son of his old age, and he had made him a rich robe with long sleeves. All right. And when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. Okay, so the disappointment here is that it was not a coat of many colors. And so, but it's okay if you have an image of a beautiful striped coat with whatnot, it's okay. But the proper the proper translation here and what it really was, let's read this. Okay, these coats were abayas, they were called, are generally worn by princes, noblemen, and learned men. The sleeves and front parts of the garment are embroidered with silk of diverse colors. Thus, the color is in the embroidery of the garment and not in the material itself. Princes and noblemen never work. Therefore, they are attired with a garment of long sleeves. This is a token of honor, dignity, and the position they occupy in society. On the other hand, a poor man can neither afford such a coat with long sleeves, nor can he work while wearing a garment of this style. So it's one of these differences in translation that probably don't make a whole lot of difference in the meaning, but culturally speaking, and I've looked everywhere to try and find a picture, but of course, you go to traditional Google or whatever else, then they always have this striped coat with beautiful colors and everything, and that's okay. But that's what the Aramaic translation is. So Joseph Israel had made Joseph a prince, so to speak. His brothers, and remember, Joseph was the youngest of the brothers, and they all resented him. All right, so the plot thickens here. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told to his brothers, and they hated him yet the more. And Joseph said to them, listen to this dream which I have dreamed. Behold, we, and that's the brothers, all the brothers and Joseph were binding sheaves in the field. And lo, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about and bowed down to my sheaf. And his brothers said to him, are you indeed going to reign over us? Or are you going to have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. Now, just a little bit about okay, we call this the dream is mysticism. We've seen many other dreams, and in this case, and we know that in dreams, for the most part, symbolism is used, and so these sheaves, it was just a way of communicating, of spirit communicating, whatever, God communicating, that the sheaves, Joseph was to rise up among his brothers and be well, not necessarily bowed down, but whatever he will. And okay, you also have to look at this dream as a prophecy too, because you'll see later on that he these dreams do happen. Okay, now, all right, and he dreamed another dream and told it to his brothers and said, behold, I have dreamed another dream, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars bowed down to me. See, here we go again. And when he told it to his father and to his brothers, his father rebuked him and said to him, what is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow down ourselves to the ground to you? And his brothers envied him, but his father observed the sayings. Once again, once you get into the rest of the Bible, this is a prophecy that did come true. Okay. So now his brothers hate him. And so now let's look at what happens. Okay. And Joseph's brothers went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, behold, your brothers are feeding the flocks in Shechem. Come, I will send you to them. And he said to him, here am I. Then his father said to him, go, see whether it is well with your brothers and well with the flocks, and bring me word again. So Jacob sent him from the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. And a certain man found him while he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him and said to him, what are you seeking? And he said, I am seeking my brothers. Do tell me where they are feeding their flocks. And the man said, they have departed from here, for I heard them say, let us go to Dothan. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dothan. All right, now. And the brothers saw him from afar, and before he came near to them, they conspired against him to kill him. And they said to one another, behold, here comes the dreamer. Come now, therefore, and let us slay him and throw him into one of the pits. And then we will say that a wild beast has devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. And Reuben, the oldest son, heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands. And he said to them, let us not kill him. And Reuben said to them, shed no blood, throw him into this pit that is in the wilderness, but do not harm him, that he might deliver him from their hands and bring him back to his father. And it came to pass, when Joseph was come to his brothers, they stripped him of the rich robe that he was wearing, and they took him and threw him into a pit. And the pit was empty, there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a caravan of Arabians coming from Gilead with their camels bearing gum, balm, and myrrh, and they were on their way to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said to his brothers, what profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Arabians, and let us not harm him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brothers listened to him. That was Judah. Okay. Then some Midianite merchants passed by, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit and sold Joseph to the Arabians for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought him into Egypt. Okay, 20 pieces of silver was the going price for an adult male in those days. And then Reuben returned to the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit. And he tore his clothes, and he returned to his brothers and said to them, where is the boy? And as for me, where shall I go? And they took Joseph's robe and killed a kid of the goats and dipped the robe in the blood. And they sent the robe with long sleeves, and they brought it to their father and said, this we have found. Now know whether it be your son's coat or not. And he recognized it and said, it is my son's coat. A wild beast has devoured him. My son Joseph is surely torn to pieces. Then Jacob tore his clothes and put sackcloth upon his loins and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters made an effort to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, I will go down to Sheol to my son mourning. Thus his father wept for him. And the Midianites sold Joseph in Egypt to Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officers, the commander of the guard. Okay, that is the end of chapter 37. And Joseph is in Egypt. And now later on, we will see that Joseph did well for himself in Egypt. And these two dreams that they had about him, his family bowing down to him and everything, that will come true when they finally meet up, kind of like Esau and Jacob did. But anyway, for now, they don't go directly there. So to kind of end this, essentially, this is Jacob. Well, he hasn't died yet, but remember the deception. Jacob deceived Esau. Laban deceived Jacob, and it's just kind of a tragedy and a thing that followed Jacob from the beginning. And here is the last deception. Hold on just a sec. You know what? Oh, from Reuben. No, wait a minute. From Reuben to Jacob or from Reuben to Joseph? Theodore.
Joseph.
I'm not sure. I'll have to check that. I think that I heard that or I read that well, I think Reuben was probably 55 and Joseph was 17 or thereabouts when all this went about. I'm pretty sure, because Joseph was the youngest and Reuben the oldest. But again, this kind of now Jacob was on his spiritual journey and he fulfilled what God wanted him to do, but he just had he had a lot of tragedy, and deception, of course. And this is the final deception. His sons have deceived him and told him that Joseph is dead, but Joseph is not dead. So we're going to end chapter 37 tonight, and like I say, you know, the Bible itself is about humankind's experience with God. And so when we read these, we have to go above all the well, you know, the rape, the killing, the resentment, and what we have to rise above it and realize that there's the spiritual thread running through this, just as there is with us, today. If we can somehow jump from our daily materialistic, whatever, political, if we can somehow rise above it in the spiritual nature of things. And to me, I was thinking about this week. It came to me, Jacob, when Dinah or Dina, whatever we say, when the sons, all right, when he found out that Dinah was raped, okay, defiled, okay, his sons just went crazy and did what they did. But I was thinking this, why, Jacob was the girl's father, but he didn't react like that. He didn't do that. And it just came to me, and I was thinking about, well, the reason is because, remember, God was guiding Jacob the whole way. And even though it doesn't see here, well, God protected him, but this is just a phrase that I had, but Jacob was under the influence of God, and that kept him from the anger and the resentment, and from him, going with the sons and doing all the killing. And so I think when we talk about just kind of learning from it, humankind's experiences with God, I think we have to, follow through, because Abraham was guided by God the whole way. Now, Abraham had a much smoother time, but in spite of all the tragedies and the mess that Jacob is in, and that his children do, he's still there. God is still with him, and God is still protecting him. So, okay, so that's for tonight. We are 501c3, and we appreciate contributions, and we thank those of you